It's so OEM.
That's the goal. It should feel like if Mazda made a V8 Miata, this would be it.
What's wrong with your Mazda? Like, come on. Mazda.
They don't even have any 6-cylinders anymore.
Yeah. Wow. That shifter is so nice.
It feels good, doesn't it? Stock T56
yeah.
Magnum.
I can't believe it. Everything works.
Trying to get the average fuel economy thing to work properly, that took a while.
Really?
I can tell you stories about the electronics in this car, let me tell you.
This thing is crazy. Oh my god.
But if you want to turn down the volume, just change the wiper speed.
It sounds... I love that. It's so weird! How is it like... It's so weird that it sounds like this. Oh my god. I just can't help but laugh.
The whole point, right?
That third gear, it's a nice transmission. It's gonna take some getting used to. Wow.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 500 horsepower Miata. It takes some getting used to.
Well, the brakes are really good.
We thought that was important.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys thought that was important. Oh my god, this thing is awesome. It's a total different beast.
What's that? The suspension is set up for cross-country work right now. Probably should have tightened the shocks up.
Oh my god, this is so much fun. This is too much fun, sir. I can't believe you guys did this. Amazing. You know, for what you said about the rear tires, I'm surprised how much rear grip there is.
It usually hooks up a little better. Not so much straight line, but more on the big corner. You can tell they're a little tired.
Right.
Last time I had this on track was at Laguna Seca, and it's the first time it's really kind of been badly behaved for me.
Awesome. This thing is too cool. Really, thank you so much for letting me drive this thing.
Yeah, of course.
This thing is so cool. Holy this is that's game changing.
It's an old recipe, isn't it? Little car, big engine.
But like littlest car.
Biggest engine.
Yeah, biggest engine.
People say LS swaps are played out, but you know, it just works, so why mess with it?
What's wrong with this picture? Give it a couple revs. What's up, guys? Larry Chen here. Welcome to another episode of Hoonigan Autofocus. Today we're at Flyin Miata. Flyin Miata is synonymous for the craziest cars, the Miatas that fly. I believe I can fly. Right?
Not literally, hopefully.
Well, we got Keith here What's your last name, Keith?
Keith Tanner. I've been with the company for about 19 years now.
Wow, 19 years. Okay, all right. It's crazy. I've heard about Flyin Miata for so many years, probably for that many years. Pretty much, I guess, when I got into cars, you know, everyone goes through their phase. It's like, oh, what should I get? Should I get a Miata? Oh, what can you do to a Miata? Oh, what Flyin Miata makes all these crazy things for your car. And I've seen a lot of your cars all over the US, but I've never thought, hey, let's visit them, because I had no idea you guys were outside of Grand Junction. It's like, you wouldn't think that such a tuning company would be out here, but you guys are here and you guys have a really nice facility. So thanks for having us. And also thanks for bringing out your cars for us to drive.
Sure, that's what they're for, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, okay, this is the one that we want to feature today. This, from the outside, it's the craziest thing. It just looks like a stock Miata, ND Miata.
Yep.
But obviously it's not. It's the LS3 V8, as it says prominently on the hood.
We had to put that there because no one believed us otherwise.
It's just such a odd thing when I hear you start it, or when I hear you just driving it. It just doesn't make sense. I look at it and I think, yeah, it's a Miata, but it's making these crazy V8 noises, and it has a really, really nice tone to it.
We spent a lot of time trying to get the sound right. You know, it's part of the experience of the car. So we spend a lot of time messing with a couple of different muffler setups, and it's actually got an exhaust, an active exhaust you can control from inside the car. And when it's set to wide open, it is straight piped. So it makes all the noise.
My favorite thing is that you turn it on and off with the windshield wiper speed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the intermittent wiper thing.
The intermittent wiper.
We didn't want to put an aftermarket switch inside the car. It would just look jarring. So yeah, we kind of took over.
Okay, so that's kind of the thing with your builds. I don't actually know how this works, right? So do you actually just sell the kit and people have to build it themselves?
We started off, this was the first one. This was our development prototype. This was the first ND Miata to get an LS3 in the world. And then we built a few for customers. I forget exactly how many we put out there, but that was to allow us to fine tune the process, because all the parts that are in here, they're not hand built, they're CNC cut and bent so that they can be reproduced and the car can be bolted together. And now we're past that stage and we're selling parts for kits so people can build them at home. So we have all of the stuff that was really hard to develop, you can now buy in a nice little cardboard box and simply plug it in and the car works.
Wow, okay, all right, I like that. And that's kind of why it keeps it more stock looking, because you guys make it a kit. It's not like you have to fab so many things to kind of get it to work.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to get it inside the car, because you know, you don't really want big hood scoops on there. Or if somebody, a lot of our customers, people who buy this kind of car, they're not necessarily overt kind of people. You know, they want something subtle, they want a sleeper. You're not looking for a Corvette with 300 vents all over the thing. So we tried to keep it as low key as possible. And I'm sure there'll be one built soon enough with a Rocket Bunny kit on it and big crazy tires and stuff like that. But that's an option, right? That's up to the builder. They don't have to do that.
Okay, let's pop the hood. Let's check this thing out. This is the feature of this. So we did have a chance to drive this already, and oh my God, it's just so much fun. Wow, look at that. Talk about shoehorned in.
We spent a lot of time moving the engine forward a quarter inch, back a quarter inch, up, down, trying to find just the perfect location for it, because there's not a lot of spare space.
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, so this is the stock hood.
It's a stock hood, but usually there's an insulation pad, a sound insulation pad. We had to take that off because it hit the engine.
Really? It's that close of a...
And this. There you go. We had to put that little dimple in there to clear the top of the power steering reservoir.
Okay, and the best part of this is 49 state legal, right?
It is. California emissions laws with regards to engine swaps basically make this a very difficult thing to get through in California, unfortunately. We can do the earlier cars. We can do up to 1995, California legal 100%, but because of the way the rules work, anything newer than that is a challenge.
Okay, I don't even know where to start. Okay, so if you were to get the kit, what LS3 do you have to get? Is there a specific one that you have to get with a specific transmission?
They're all the same size on the outside. So you could build this with a junkyard 5.3, you could build it with an LS1 and LS3. They're all basically the same engine on the outside. So that helps a lot. The supercharged LSA would be a challenge because you've got all sorts of hood clearance problems, but anything naturally aspirated. The transmission we use is we use a T56 Magnum, which is basically the aftermarket version of a T6060. It's effectively the same transmission that's being used behind these engines in production mode. We use a certain fitment of it, but it's an easy fitment to find, 4th generation F-body. It's out there. And it puts the shifter in the stock location. It shifts well. It holds up to this sort of power level beautifully. So it's actually pretty easy to get the drivetrain in. The rear end is out of either a Pontiac G8 or a Camaro. Again, the entire drivetrain is built to deal with a 4,000-pound car. So putting it in a 25 or 2,600-pound car, everything's under stressed. So it's actually really reliable in that regard. The drivetrain is bulletproof.
Okay, so, and one of the things that you guys really pride yourself in is the fact that you are able to make pretty much everything work, right? In terms of like, you were just saying earlier when we were driving, the miles per gallon thing even works.
Yeah, and that was the challenge for this. Anybody with a welder can put an engine in, but then getting it to talk to a modern connected car is far more difficult because, for example, in a stock ND Miata, if you put the car in reverse, there's a sensor in the transmission, and normally you would think that would just go to a light switch, a light on the back. No, it tells the body control module that the car is in reverse. The transmission tells the powertrain control module the car's in reverse, which then tells the body control module the car's in reverse, which then tells the electrical switching module the car's in reverse, which turns on a light on the back of the car. And that, multiply that by everything else, and you can imagine how difficult it was to get it all working together. One of the things we did is we went back to a hydraulic power steering rack instead of the electric power steering that Mazda uses, because we like the feel, and because they're smaller for packaging. And that pissed off everything from the tire pressure monitoring system to the lane departure system to ABS to dynamic stability control, everything. And trying to get most of that back again was a real challenge.
Huh. Okay, so then how does it work? Like do you have the stock GM ECU that you guys tinker with, or how does it all work?
This car has two powertrain control modules. It's got the factory Mazda one right here, and then it's got one for the GM over there. And we have an interface box that translates for the whole car. So it takes GM speak stuff from the engine and translates it into Mazda for the platform. This thing is basically a router at this point, but there's certain information has to come from this and go through this. And so we block some signals, we pass some signals through, we modify some signals, and that the fuel level, for example, this thing doesn't measure the level in the fuel tank and put that on the gauge like every car has ever done. It measures it when you're filling up, and then it goes on dead reckoning based on instantaneous fuel economy. So we had to figure out what the signals were in the CAN network for what does a fuel usage signal look like. We had to decipher that, and then we had to find out what the GM version was and translate the two of them so the fuel gauge would work and so the instantaneous fuel economy would work. I ran out of fuel on the side of the road several times as we were trying to figure that one out, let me tell you. Modern cars are complicated.
Oh my God.
And this is a $25,000 Roadster. Imagine what it's like in something like a Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
Imagine what's talking to what.
You talking to me?
Okay, so and then where is that module then? Where do you?
It's underneath the dashboard. It's nothing to look at. It's literally a little black box with about 8 wires going into it.
But it's all of your hard work that kind of went into making it.
It's the programming. Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy because that means what you're saying, you can use a junkyard motor versus a more modern LS and it would still work no matter what?
As far as we know, there may be some of the very early LS engines, the CAN signals may be different. We'd have to find out about that. Certainly with the LS3 generations, everything we've come across so far has been the same. The GM side of the thing is better known than the Mazda side. The Mazda side is not documented. Mazda was not able to give us any documents. So we had to sort of reverse engineer that, but luckily it stays the same. The GM side, the information's out there.
Oh. Well, I mean, because this is the motor that you put into pretty much everything.
The power density is the term. There is so much power, so much torque in such a small space. There's a reason they're everywhere.
Okay, so, all right. So what comes with the kit? Like, obviously, does it come with headers?
Yeah, we sell them as basically packages. So you can get the modified front subframe, which allows you to mount the engine, modified rear subframe, and the braces that reinforce everything. We have a kit that has all the exhaust parts, which is header right to exhaust pipe, and the electronic control to run the active exhaust. We have an intake kit that includes this custom hose plus the baffle, everything that's involved in the intake. This radiator, for example, is one that we designed specifically for this application to fit in there to be as efficient as possible. And all of those parts, all the parts that we developed for this are available as parts of those kits. We got it up and running in August 2016 as the V8, and it has been in the hands of journalists, and it's been given joyrides on track, and it has been driven cross country, and has been caned mercilessly ever since. Yeah. And it hasn't broken anything.
Yeah, you guys put it to the test.
I lost a power steering pump. A factory GM power steering pump went out on me, so I went down to the Mazda dealer in Lancaster, or the GM dealer in Lancaster, bought a new one and bolted it on.
They're probably like, "What year vehicle, sir?" 2016 Mazda Miata. Wrong store.
It's fun pulling up into a dealership with these things because you empty out the service bays. Like all the mechanics want to come look at it.
Yeah.
But then after they do that, they recognize everything, and you can actually get it serviced pretty much anywhere because it's just an LS, right?
I just can't believe the fit and finish. It's just so close. All right, let's look at the rest of the car because otherwise I'm just going to spend the whole time on the engine bay.
I'll close this and get rid of your temptation.
Yeah. So let's talk about the wheel, tire, and brake package over here.
Yeah, obviously we wanted this to be a well-rounded car. We weren't going to basically just make a motor death trap. So we spent a lot of time on the suspension. The suspension underneath here is Fox Racing. We work with the guys at Fox Racing directly to develop it. It's got loads of travel. I think it's 5.5 inches of shaft travel in the front, 7 inches in the rear. We're big believers in travel making suspension work. There's a 6-piston Wheelwood big brake kit on the front. There's our own 4-piston big brake kit on the back. So this car originally came with 4 brake pistons. Now it has 20. The wheels are 949 Racing 6ULs, which are a fitment that is developed specifically for this chassis of Miata. So it's the most wheel you can put in there, running a 245 front and rear.
Oh, wow. That's really wide. What did it come with stock in the front?
205.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we went from a 205 to a 245.
And it doesn't rub?
It's very, very close. Very, very, very close.
And the thing is, this is meant to be driven. And honestly, when we just took it out on the track, there were some points when I came off my seat because of Mr. Curb Jumper over here, Keith, behind the wheel, jumping curbs. And of course, this allows for that, right? So when you say Fox, you mean the same shock company that makes the off-road things?
They do. If you buy a Raptor, it's got Fox shocks on it, Fox Racing shocks. They won Indy back in the 80s. If you wanted to win Indianapolis, you had to have Fox Racing shocks.
This is the second car that I've seen. I didn't even know that they made it for cars. Like the other car, Casey Curry, he's a Fox Racing driver, but he's a Dakar winning driver, and he uses Fox shocks for off-road, and he uses it for his Camaro too, but I didn't realize they made it for Miatas.
Well, they make them for us.
For you guys,
Miatas,
okay, yeah, Flyin Miata. It's a Flyin Miata Fox Racing kit.
Exactly, and they come out here, they work with us on the track, we take multiple cars out there. I have a rally background, and I'm a big believer in travel. Dave Coleman at Mazda has a rally background. He's a big believer in travel. So we do everything we can to get as much travel as possible, and the guys at Fox understand that. They understand that suspensions have to move. It's not just a matter of throwing 3,000 pounds of spring on it.
Right. So with that said, this droops like probably a lot more than
considerably. It's actually the same. The car came from the factory with a lot of shock travel, so we've kept that.
Okay.
So the droop is considerable, but it's not any more than factory. And also, we have pictures. The first thing we do when we get one of these is we take the springs out and we compress it as far as possible to find out just how much we can get in there. And then that's our limit of suspension travel.
Wow, this is what I love. I love all this nerdy stuff, really. It's so cool. So let's move to the back. One of the things that you pointed out to me is the exhaust is obviously, that's one of the indicators. I mean, of course you have this badge, but if you didn't see that, the center exhaust.
We get a lot of requests from 4-cylinder owners for that exhaust, but unfortunately, the way it's packaged, it's a true dual, and it doesn't work with the 4 cylinders. But yeah, I wish you could see it from underneath because there's a muffler on each side. And so when the butterflies are open for the active setup, you can pretty much see straight down to the headers. It's almost a straight shot. So
It sounds really
very direct.
crisp. It really sounds very clean. And when it is closed, it's actually really quiet.
Yeah, it's nice and mellow.
I was really surprised how quiet it is.
I have done cross-country road trips in this car. I've done 1,000-mile days in this car, and yeah, with the top up and the exhaust set to quiet, it's a great cruising road trip car.
So tell me about the interior. Is it pretty much all stock Mazda?
It is almost 100% stock. You can see the shifter ends up in the right location. The shift action is a little more bolt-like than the factory one. It's a short shift, just like the factory, but it's a very short shift.
So I noticed that. When I drove it, I really enjoyed the shifting action. It definitely takes some getting used to, having a car this light that has this much power. I just couldn't believe it. It was just a different feeling, and even though this has a lot of journalist miles on it, right? So
it's been through a lot of tires.
Yeah, the rear tires are pretty much owned, but you definitely got it quite sideways. But I didn't want to push it because it's not my car, but I did get on it a couple times coming out of the corner, and I was surprised how well it handled. Does this have a LST?
It does. It's got a General Motors capital P posit traction. It's got a really good clutch pack diff. GM makes really good differentials, it turns out, and it hooks up pretty well. We've had this thing on acceleration testing, and 0 to 60 is I think 3.5 seconds. It comes off the line harder than a 911. They were testing the same day. Car and driver did the testing. And 0 to 150 is 18.7 seconds. So we actually have a 0 to 150 time for a Miata of all things.
Okay, and we touched on this before a little bit, but you haven't had a chance to test the top speed of this thing.
We haven't. Top speed's not as interesting as cornering speed to me, but doing the math, it would probably pull redline in fifth gear, which would be just a hair over 200. So I think it could do it. The math says, given how slippery this is and given the power level, should be possible. I'll let someone else try that.
Oof. On a very, very, very straight, closed off road.
Yeah, what's the wheelbase? About 90 inches?
Going 200 in a Miata, top down. Oh, wow.
You might have to put the top up to get the aerodynamics. Otherwise, you're going to come home bald.
Yeah. It would just rip the hair right off your head. Yeah. Wow, that is incredible. I mean, because what you're saying, it gets, 30 miles per gallon?
Yeah, about that, yeah. When we did the road trip, we did it with a turbo four-cylinder, and we did it with this car, and they were less than 10% different. It's got that same super high sixth gear that you find in the Corvette and the Camaro, so it's loafing along at 60 miles an hour. It's doing 1,800 RPM or something.
Incredible. So do you know how many of these exist now?
I should. I mean, I know the names of all the owners. It's maybe a dozen. It's not a big number of this generation. Right. And we're the only company that has done the R&D on this, so every single one of them has come through our hands, or we supplied the parts for it. The earlier generations, we've been doing these for 12 years. Yeah. There's quite a few of those out there. But this generation, yeah, it's a scarce beast. And only one of them is the fastback. I wish more. I want to build a black fastback. I think that'd be a great looking car.
Well, this is so cool. Thank you so much for showing us this, and definitely thank you for letting me drive it. I love these kind of cars so much. I love the OEM fit and finish, but it's just it's so different. So did you actually have a chance to dyno it on your dyno?
Yeah, it's been on our dyno. It's, I forget exactly the number. It's in the 450 range at the wheels, and about that in the torque as well.
So that's well over double, right?
Oh yeah, stock, these things make 150. So it's actually just about triple.
Triple, okay. Yeah, triple the horsepower. Yeah, that's good. Cool.
The dirty little secret of Miatas is that they make you look much better than you really are. They flatter you as a driver, and this still has that. Big flat torque curve. It only does what you ask it to do. So it will do stupid things if you ask it to do stupid things, but it will not do stupid things without your request. So they're actually really easy to drive. They're just big Miatas.
Yeah, the difference with this is when somebody pulls up to you at a light in this thing,
womp, 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 womp.
And they hear the rumble from this, and this can take on a lot of crazy cars, without a doubt. I can only imagine the look on people's faces when you take off in this thing.
It's a sleeper. It's fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's a wrap. We're going to check out some of your other cars, and yeah, I think that'll be good.